What is happening, everyone? Welcome to the show. I am Max, and you are here for entertainment hour. I was gonna mess that up. I was gonna say entertainment hour, valuetainment, but in the nerd world of coding and crypto. Yeah, welcome to the show. I think this will be a fun one. This is one I've been thinking about and planning. Well, me and Fashion Coder and Gift have been. We've all been like trying to brainstorm like how to put this in a way that's useful, consumable for people are interested in. So that's why we're going to go over today first, like getting into coding, a beginner's experience, kind of like lesson learned, things like that. And then we'll go into, I wrote a blog 2 or 3 weeks ago about actually developing an app that uses Anvil. Make your own website that talks to the blockchain. It's up right now. I'll share it, and we'll go over that and stuff too. And going through how to code and how to make that work, which was a very interesting process. It wasn't hard coming from a traditional coding background, but it was just a lot of pieces to put together, especially when I was documenting it. I'd go back and change things. Oh, this is the better way to do it. And then we'll get into the HEX contract, and Fashion Coder is going to walk us through, go through some of the interesting functions, kind of look at what real products out there are doing, how they work, and just some interesting tidbits from that, which I think is fascinating. I'm very excited for that portion as well. So, and also, before we kick anything off, RH streamed last night, and he posted it to his YouTube. And if you missed that, go back and watch it, because there's like 4 hours or so of content. I still haven't got through it all, but at the very beginning of him getting on with Maddie, he talked about some updates, which I posted last night. I clipped it, posted it real quick, so you can check out that as well on the channel. So we're going to talk about that, kick that off for the first few minutes, and then we'll get into the coding portion. And I think it's going to be an exciting journey. Post your questions in the chat. We will try to get to every single one of them if possible as well. Probably go for about an hour today, something like that. And it'll be great. I'm very excited. These two streamers I have with me are awesome. To my favorite people in the community to talk turkey with, because they are technical and they get stuff done. So I like that a lot. First up, welcome to the stream, Fashion Coder.
What is up? Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. Love having you on the stream. I love your background, your fashionable headphones. So last time we were talking about this, did I say get the white ones, or what? I can't remember the conversation.
I think you did say to get the white ones, and I finally got them.
Okay.
So yeah,
something to do with your outfit. I was like, it should go well with that. And then whatever you got, it goes well with it. I'll say that.
Thank you. Yes, and I got my sparkle jean jacket on, so it like matches the whole vibe.
Head to toe, love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's if you all missed our stream, we did a how to be a streamer stream and talked about our experience and the different equipment and things like that. So if you're interested, type in RHMax, how to be a streamer, and it'll pop up, and have about an hour conversation of us going through all the things that we learned in the past year or so, how to produce content and just be effective in the ecosystem with that. So without further ado, a guy who has taken a month or so break, and we all missed him dearly. Gifford Ware, welcome to the stream.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
He's back, baby. He's back.
I'm back. Long time no see.
It felt like forever. Literally, I was like, where are you? Why no Hedron stuff? And I was like, all right, respect his time, respect his wishes.
I hope that's a good thing. I hope you missed me. That's great.
it made everyone miss you. I'll say that. It was
awesome.
Painful, but we got through it.
You all did fine. It's good to be back. It's good to have some time to do some streaming.
Yeah. I mean, while you were gone, also, I made a t-shirt. Boom. Made a t-shirt.
Hey, loving it.
T-shirt.
Got to get one of those.
Made a cup. Yes.
Right.
Either of you come to a local HEX meetup, you shall receive a cup and/or shirt. There's a couple floating around, so I can make it happen.
So you don't have those on your website yet, I take it.
I go hardcore with the no monetization policy. So I'm literally like here's my thought process. The first thing I thought is, I would like to get it to people who I'm not, I don't see very regularly in real life, or they're in another country or whatever it is. But my first thought was trying to figure out how to make a discount code where I could pay up front for just give like 100% discount codes and maybe only let, 10, 20, 30 people or whatever. The first so many people get it. And then I would just pay for it up front. And then you literally don't have to pay for anything, maybe shipping or something like that. because that's how hardcore I go with no monetization with this channel and with
Well,
my
hey,
brand.
what you could always do, and
Yeah.
you can always hit me up and I'll show you, but based on the software you use for your blog, you can get that linked up with merch, and you can set the price to just be cost, so that any of your stuff that people buy, they're just paying for the cost of the product to be made, and then you're not taking any profit. So that's an option. Not twisting anybody's arms, though.
I have reached out to a couple different places that make custom stuff, and I literally asked them, can I just prepay, like however much it is, and then just be able to generate codes for that? And they told me no, of course they nobody wants to do that, nobody's doing that, so why would they have that feature? But maybe there's a way to do it with cost. But again, I don't even like the exchange. I don't even like the exchange of money that you're giving me for something. I don't want that with this brand. But maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe I'll figure it out one day, and maybe I'll compromise my values in some way to get people t-shirts if they really want them. So everyone, if you really want merch, just spam the crap out of the comments and be like, I have to have one of those shirts. Just do that, and then maybe I'll do it.
We're already going off on tangents. This is going to be great.
I'm excited for this show. I was going to say, Dipcatcher, if you want to come on stream too, more than welcome. Just let me know. I'll send you a StreamYard link. You, Synergy, Gold Key, whoever's around. If you want to come on, just let me know. Otherwise, feel free to enjoy the chat and just make fun of us beginners, because we're probably gonna say stuff you're like, no, that's not exactly how it works. But that's because we're not alpha developers, and we haven't reduced these amazing, nobody in here has made Maximus, nobody in here has made Hedron or anything like that. So, but we're trying to give people an idea of how to get started in the space, and how to, what are some of the tools that the pros use, which Anvil is definitely one we'll be talking about. Okay, awesome. Dipcatcher's coming on. Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, real quick, while we're going to that, I'll just get into HEX conference. We'll get to this real quick. RH spoke last night. I took a couple notes. I clipped the one of the updates, which a lot of people say, is that an update? I thought it was some sort of he talked about things. He read dev notes. I thought that was cool. He was literally reading what the developers sent him, unless he used ChatGPT to just make up some stuff. Could have did that too. It's very good, hard to tell, but it seemed like he was actually reading dev notes. I love that part. There was something about one of the devs said, and then this should be good to go. They were talking in the context of testnet v3. So, and then of course he says testnet v3 is close, but then afterwards he says that all his estimates are garbage. So take it for what you will. And then I was listening to him this morning, about an hour and a half, 2 hours into his talk. He started talking about the PLS staking rewards, answering a question on that. He said that, of course, everyone suspected that the rewards and stuff will change because of proof of stake and the delegation stuff changing. It'll be based on a pool. How many people are in the pool would be your yield versus a set percentage, like it might have been before, something around those lines. And then he touched on the SEC stuff, which was funny. I was hanging on for a moment. I was like, oh God, please don't, middle finger or something like that. And then he was actually fairly moderate with it. He was RH with it. And then I was like, don't poke the bear. And then I realized RH is the bear, and then everything was fine. Yeah, but what did you all take away anything? Did you get a chance to watch it? Did you feel like you got anything that's like, that's interesting that you can talk about or use forward in your 2023 plan with no expectations? Start with Fashion Coder.
So I did watch part of it. My dad and I sat together and watched it together.
Nice.
But I didn't watch all of it. And so I watched the part where he did read the dev notes, and I was very confused.
It was hard to parse them. I'll say that. I was like, can you elaborate? This is from technical minded people, right? This is we're sitting there I want to give commentary on this, but it's hard.
Exactly. And so I went back and rewatched it, and I still was kind of confused. And even he said he didn't really know what they were talking about in some of it, which is true. I think they have specific words that they use that is very specific to what they're doing. And because we don't work on it, we have no clue. So when I was listening to it, I was like, I don't think I could even give an update from what I know from that, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, whatever. It's being worked on. They're moving forward on it. Something that he did say, though, that caught my ear was just he said they'll eventually run out of things to do, and they will eventually run out of things to do. And once we get to that point, then we all will know. But yeah, at the moment, it's not something that I feel like is super clear, even to him.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool because I was able to pick up just buzzwords, right? Because I'm still just learning so much of this. But the buzzwords was like the beacon chain, which was like the testnet version of ETH2, right? Like pre-merge, and Lighthouse, which is like some sort of security feature that has to do with consensus. So it sounds like, I mean, I was able to hear some buzzwords, and I'm like, oh, I've heard of that, or I could look that up. But what the notes mean and like how the interchangeable parts are working. Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, he did mention some. He used some of the words around some of the technologies they were using. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe when Dick Catcher comes in, Dick Catcher, did you understand what he was talking about? Because it's probably they're probably, people are setting up the staking nodes. People are setting up some of the stuff that's going to integrate or play on some of that technology. Maybe those names are like, if you never heard of Anvil before, you wouldn't know how to. If he said Anvil, you wouldn't know like what that meant in the context of what he's saying. So maybe these are just technologies he was using that if you knew what the technologies were, then it'd be easier to talk about it. Maybe I'll rewatch it again and try to like just do some Googling, do some basic research and figure it out. But yeah, there was, I don't know. I like the fact that he was actually reading the dev notes, so we know that like he's getting these updates. I wish it would have been like, okay, and let me share the screen to show you the testnet v3 staking portal, because he talked about that and it got me really excited too. But no pan for the screenshot on that, unfortunately. But that would have been epic. Say hi to the chat real quick because I forgot to do that, and then we'll get into it. Use ChatGPT supercharge code skills. That's, I didn't even think to talk about that, but that you can do that. People are doing it. You can tell it to write code, and it will do that. And I'm curious to ask Dick Catcher when he comes on too, because he was one of the first people to talk about, he's going to use it, integrate it with some of the products, and maybe he has, or he has tried to, and getting to know what he's used for it. That would be cool too. Gif, have you played with ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started with ChatGPT and just asking it to generate some code for me, right? And it was primarily written in Python or JavaScript. And in my education I'm doing, I have assignments that I have to code certain programs. And so I'd finish coding the program, and then I would ask GBT to code it for me and just to compare notes. And it's pretty good. And I think maybe it has a lot to do with what you input to ask the GBT to do will dictate how good of a code you're going to get out. But I found it to be a little incomplete, which could be user error. So I went down that road a little bit, and then not to go on another tangent, but I found an extension for my my Visual Studio called what's it called? GitHub Copilot. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to use it because a lot of guys that I've reached out to told me don't lean on that while you're learning. Like that's an advanced tool for something else, I guess.
Yeah, Copilot is more for like maybe you're a professional dev and you just don't want to keep copying pasting, or you don't want to keep writing the same routine, or you don't want to search in your repository to find something. Because when you're working in a company, you got, depending on how big the company is, how many products and all that stuff, but usually you have access to all these other things that people have written before, and you can sort of see how it was done, and you can reuse a library someone's written, things like that. So yeah, Copilot I always saw as, I haven't used it, but when I saw it released, I saw the video and stuff, I thought, oh, that'd be great to use as a dev, just to not duplicate effort in a lot of ways. But ChatGPT is more of this, I don't know, it's written, I've seen it write some scripts. You really need to be specific. I think that's the thing. You need to be like, I need it this way, and then see what it writes, and then say, no, and do this, and then and do this. And maybe once you get to the 10th or 15th iteration, it'll produce something that's you could actually just use. But yeah, Pastor Coder, have you used it any? What's been your experience?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. My uncle told me about it the day after it was released. So I went on my computer right when I got home, and it has done so much for me already. Like, it's written out an entire marketing plan for Fashion Coder and my YouTube channel, and how I'm going to market through Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. And I've gone through and I want to create a course this year. And so I actually went and it wrote me out all of the topics that I need for like a 3-day course. And so I've like gone in and really utilized it like for my brand. And then also coding wise, I just have been, I mean, I don't code anything in my life right now. Right. And so I'm not a dev right now. I don't do any personal projects. And so, but I'll like come up with different things in my head. So the other day I was like, create me a blockchain that is a fork from Ethereum. And so it like gave me like the basic code for it, but it wasn't specific enough. So it gave me like different constructors and everything and like formed different functions, but it didn't give me the specifics. And so, I mean, clearly I do not want to make my own blockchain, but it was fun to just have it like spit out the code. And then I've been asking it all different things about immutability within code, as well as having no admin keys and like it showing me examples of what that looks like. And anyways, it's been really cool.
Yeah. And Microsoft, they invested 10 billion or something into it, I heard. It's going to be crazy. I think you'll be going, instead of Googling for stuff, you'll still have Google in one tab, but the other tab will be like, whatever they call it. It won't be ChatGPT. It'll be like, give me answer, .com.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was joking with my wife. I've got a little girl, right? And when she gets to be like a teenager, it would be funny if she's like, yeah, my dad, he still Googles. Like, how wild is that? Like, that's going to become like the weird thing, because you're just going to have some sort of AI assistant that you just ask it questions and it does stuff. So I don't know. I'm feeling my age already.
Well, I mean, on that, it's kind of like, I grew up learning C++, and then nobody learns that these days. Like they all, but I felt like my experience learning that get me much closer to the machine and much closer to figuring out like how memory works and like how the do's and don'ts and then what things can happen and undefined behavior and stuff like that. But a lot of people growing up today, I'm not old, but like a lot of people learning coding today, they learn Python, which is, I use Python, but I didn't start out with Python. I started off way low level. I've written some like assemblies type stuff before too, just to like learn mostly. But it's interesting, the different, I wonder, I guess if you come from that background, I always think, oh, you're missing something. You're not going to understand fully how it works, all these things. But I don't know. I mean, maybe Python's enough. Maybe that's the intermediate language that's good enough. But I guess I would say don't start off learning PHP. Like don't let PHP be your foundation, but Python might be okay. C++, all the lower level stuff. Even Rust. I think Rust is becoming something that's close enough to where you can replace a lot of C code. But it'll be interesting. I wonder what are the trade-offs? I guess I haven't thought about the trade-offs as much and what it'll actually affect. Because if you're not writing drivers, you're not writing operating system code, if you're not writing something that really needs to be close to the machine, the memory, then maybe all the higher level languages are fine. And you'll never miss anything in your entire life because you'll never be writing anything else. And if you have a strong, foundation in computer science or related topics, then maybe you'll be okay. So anyways, Python is great. Love Python. And ChatGPT may take over the world. I think it's actually changed the 2020s. I think it is put us on a course for something interesting coming up. Just think about all the homework, it's not even what is plagiarism anymore? Like, what does it even mean? Like, if you get a machine to do it, is it plagiarism? Like, how do you test people to know stuff? Interviews even.
Yeah, my mom, she's a school teacher, and the day after it came out, actually, someone sent out an email and was like, we're probably going to have to rethink how we're going to be doing things. And so it actually might go like take a step back of they can't submit a essay online, like they have to write their essay out on paper with a pencil in class or whatever, which is kind of interesting of like having this technology, but having to take a step back. And so her school that she teaches at is like definitely assessing the problem, because it is a problem, but we just don't even really know. And if it makes you feel better, Max, my foundation was in C++ too. Cool. So
virtual high five, this that way. Yes.
That was bad.
Yes. Good touch coder. My respect for you went to the roof just now, just saying that. No, it's I don't know. I mean, technically, I don't know. C++ is good stuff. But Python, we'll stick on Python. Everyone here doesn't care about any of that nerd language type stuff. I wanted to say hi to the chat real quick. They keep not doing that. Swans of Donnerhouse at the end of the chat. Welcome, sir. And then a few minutes ago, there was a dog noise of some sort. Why is that Hot Pearl's dog? Apparently, did Hot Pearl's dog make a noise? And then Fashion Coder sounds like you have a dog.
So I think I know what Jerry's talking about.
Oh, it's a reference. Okay.
Hot Pearl, he thinks that Hot Pearl's baby was making noise in the HEX conference the other day. And so when the dog barked earlier, I think he's referring to that. Is that Hot Pearl's dog?
Gotcha.
That's a guess.
Okay. It's Jerry, so that's probably a good guess. Good guess. Welcome, Red Squirrel. Good to see you. Chad also says the Don learning Python and R and SQL, adding data science. Yeah, I mean those are like literally those three things equal data science for a big portion of it. If you're going to do data science in actually making queries and like pulling data from databases and stuff, those three things are a common repertoire you would need. Let's see. Who else? Welcome, Sweaty. Yeah, let's get into it. Gif, you had an absence and you went on a spirit quest from what I can just imagine in my mind. What did that all add up to in coding? Like, how did you, just give us your experience and your journey there.
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, I'll age myself again just because it's fun for me. But back when I was in college, I took a class to build an online portfolio, like a website portfolio, and we were using a lot of Adobe Flash back then. So I took a course on Adobe Flash, which you guys both know doesn't exist anymore. It's like a dinosaur. It's a relic. It's not even supported. So I got a taste of it then. I really enjoyed it, but I just didn't pursue it. It wasn't part of my degree. So then, fast forward up until 6 months ago, maybe a year ago when Hedron was coming out, I started looking at the Hedron code and thinking, this is wild. It's like magic. It's like, what does all of this mean? There's, and I hear there's different languages, and it really started to, turn on some light bulbs for me. And the more questions I would ask other people about coding, it just kind of seemed like you can't just fumble your way through it asking questions. Sometimes you just have to sit down and do some work, right? And start learning some of the basics. And it really does kind of help wrap your head around how the whole ecosystem works. Not only how, your website browser works, or how payment processing works, how blogs work, but also how the blockchain itself works. And it's been fascinating. So, early on, I don't know if it was you, Max, or I was talking to somebody and I was asking, I was like, what language should I start with? Like, where do I dip my toes in? And I kept hearing a lot of Python. They're like, hey, jump into Python, check out Python. Chat GBT says Python too. If you ask it, what code I should start learning with. So I started with Python, and I took, just an entry-level course, completed that. It was a lot of fun. And there was some parts, as you get more complex in your code, it starts to get a little intense, right? Like I could just feel the calories I'm burning in my head, like trying to absorb everything that I'm learning. Yeah. And it wasn't until, I finished Python that I started dabbling into JavaScript. Mainly because if I'm not mistaken, Bitcoin is pretty much written in JavaScript. I may be wrong, but from what I could tell, a lot of what do you think?
The client stuff is the
client stuff.
Well, let me just throw this up here, and then we can look at it because the code is of course open source. Because it's a good thing to just throw up real quick too. So Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken, so if you want to know what language stuff is written in, you can see here on GitHub language is what percentage of the code in the repo at least. So I think a lot of it is C++. There's probably some Python dev scripts usually has stuff like that. C, part of it's C. Some shell scripts to set stuff up, make files, things like that. So yeah, I thought it was mostly C++.
That's right.
For the core, this is the core Bitcoin core, and then but there's different things. There's nodes, there's clients. So it could be written in a lot of different languages.
So yeah, for whatever reason, I got it in my head that I wanted to learn some JavaScript. So I went
Yeah.
through and took my entry-level course of JavaScript. Then after that, I found out that a lot of JavaScript is used to kind of supplement web pages to do some more advanced functions, that's kind of written behind the HTML or CSS code there. So from there, I jumped over into HTML, and I'm just about finished up with HTML. And the interesting part is I don't know if it's just the order that I was learning these languages, but HTML feels like it's the easiest to kind of wrap your head around it and put together. And I would almost, I don't know what you guys think, and I want to hear. Wouldn't you think the HTML might be the best code for anybody to start with if they're just in general want to see how code works?
Yeah, that's actually what I recommend. So I mentor students, and when they're first in their coding, I always try and get them to take a web class, just because it is so simple compared to literally everything else. And so it gets you into the mindset of like syntax and just kind of seeing weird things that you don't typically see in your normal life. And then when you get to, an object-oriented language or whatever it is, you do get to see you like kind of already have that basis of, okay, this is the syntax that kind of gets used. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Nice.
Yeah, HTML, I think that's one of especially if you're looking at web pages, well, I would say, it's useful to learn these days just to understand what is code? What are the different syntaxes? What are you able to change and display on a web page and things like that? And then JavaScript is kind of the next evolution of, okay, I want to make these more advanced calls. I want to maybe talk to other websites. I want to embed things. I want to do stuff like that. So those two things are the building blocks of making websites and stuff. But these days, and then PHP, of course, too. But then the modern way you make websites and just share stuff and things on the web is you'll have some sort of framework or some sort of library that already has all the HTML, all the JavaScript, maybe it's Ruby, maybe it's Python, maybe it's some other backend language too, that you use to just make everything more consistent, and you don't have to write it from scratch, and just provides a lot of different features and richness and all that kind of thing. So if you're going to build a website today, usually you just go to Squarespace, or you just go to for example, if you're doing web blockchain type stuff. But you usually don't write it from scratch. There's so many libraries, all these features that you can just reuse in all the different languages. But for learning, for sure, if you've never touched code before, HTML will kind of help you get a handle around things.
Yeah, totally.
So
have you done? Oh, can I ask a question quick?
Yeah.
Have you done anything with React or Angular yet? Because that has stuff to do with HTML, but it kind of beefs it up more.
Yeah, so those words are just buzzwords for me right now. But
Okay.
those have kind of been suggested as React is like the newer, more popular version of Angular. Angular is more of a more established, well, I'll let you describe it. I'll let you go. But I'm roughly aware.
Yeah, so it's a part of JavaScript. So that's actually why I ask. And it is a part of the JavaScript library. Well, React is, but Angular is just a front-end framework, but it helps with doing front-end work. But then you can use different back-end things. So for example, a company I worked at, we had our front end, but we didn't want to always just have all these HTML pages. So we had our React.js pages that had React in it. It had our HTML in it. So it had our front end, but then it called all of our back-end functions to bring data to our pages. So it is something that you may want to learn if you like JavaScript, because it is the way of what companies are doing right now.
What would you recommend? Which route do I go? Do I learn both Angular and React, or just one?
I would learn React if I were you.
Yeah.
Angular, so if you like JavaScript, I would learn React because it is a JavaScript library. Angular is just that front end framework. And I've worked just a teensy bit in Angular, but more in React. So
awesome. That's excellent. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
And the added benefit to using frameworks like that is you don't have to worry about security. If you use a lot of times, well, I mean, you still have to worry about security in a lot of different ways, but the input validation, a lot of times they have functions that will take care of and make sure you don't get cross-site scripting, where you don't get some kind of injection bugs and all that sort of class of vulnerabilities. So these frameworks, so if you write it from scratch, you need to like write all the different validation functions, and otherwise you just write plain stuff. Your website's going to get hacked pretty easily. But the frameworks provide all that extra value too, and that's another reason to use those instead of writing from scratch these days. And you can use the frameworks, and a lot of times if you need to write custom code from scratch, you can just add that in and just plug it into the framework. But Dipcatcher is here, so I'm going to bring him in because I think he has some commentary on React as well. If he's ready, he is here. He is ready and not sweaty. Welcome to the show, Dipcatcher.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What is
Really
up?
good. I was trying to give you a second. I saw your head was down. I was like, if I just keep talking, maybe you'll hear me introducing him.
I was tweeting about just what Richard was talking about. But I mean, on the topic of you guys I was listening in. The first app I built was in React Native. So, it kind of doesn't matter what you start on. It's more just like getting started doing anything. I think that's like, that's the first step, is just like kind of learning the workflow of like, how to read documentation, how to follow tutorials, how to look at code samples, and like how to fight through bugs. And I think what Fashion Coder is right on, like HTML, is like, because you can just run it in the browser and just like have a file on your computer and just like run it in your browser, that like really quick like time between like writing the code and seeing it on the screen, that's huge for a beginner. Like you don't have to do any setup, any like complicated stuff. So, it's all about the momentum and like just keeping the ball rolling and just getting started doing anything, because it's like, you see like no matter what, you need to spend hundreds or thousands of hours practicing, and the more you can just get started practicing, it's probably, that's what really makes the difference, I think. But yeah.
Well, if you want to talk too, because we're going to go to just talking about Anvil, I definitely want to mention that. That's something that I think you have popularized in the community and just got all kinds of people excited about when they think about how to talk to the blockchain, how to provide data, represent stuff, and all that. Can you maybe, and I'll just scroll through the blog too, because I've already posted it, and just gives you a way to understand how to get started with Infura and Anvil and all that whole basket of technologies. But maybe you could walk us through, what do you use Anvil for? How have you used it? Like, is it the base of all the Maximus products in the staking portals? Like, how have you been able to harness it to really make a difference in the products you build?
Yeah. So for anyone just learning about Anvil now, Anvil is a platform for building, deploying, and hosting full stack web applications that you write in Python. And so it's all in the browser. So it's like a really effective, just kind of like all in one place that's where you write all your code. That's where you manage your database. It's where you manage everything. It's just all right there, and everything just works out of the box. And so I use Anvil for truly everything. I used to build another like my first app, it was a React Native mobile app. And then when I started doing more stuff on the web, I was learning, I knew React, but I was learning Django because I knew Python a lot. And so I was researching, I was looking up like a Django, like a drag and drop like front end builder for a Django app. And that's how I found Anvil, was because Anvil has a really nice like drag and drop user interface designer that you then just write Python functions to operate. And so I was looking for like Python web development tools, and that was how I found Anvil. And I'm not even kidding. Since that day, I have not even thought about any other JavaScript framework or any of these other web stuff. Like, I'm actually totally out of the loop on anything new that came out starting in like early 2018. Like, once I started using Anvil, I've stopped all other like web development tooling. So in some ways I'm kind of out of the loop, but it's just because for me, it's just so effective in being able to build really anything and being able to plug in to anything, and being able to just manage it all just in a single like login on a web browser. It just like cuts down all the barriers to like getting started working on your app that day. And it just works really great. And the team behind it, it's like it's like rather than having to hire like a full developer team for like the back end stuff for hosting databases and servers and the, like hosting everything and like securing it and all the tools that just Anvil has
security
built in.
nightmare.
Yeah. It's like, rather than having to have, either myself know how to do that stuff or hire others to do that, it's just like, it feels like you have like a really capable, just like engineering team behind you. And then the code that you're writing is the code that, makes your app what your app does, so connecting with the data sources that you care about, the user interface, it's, so like 100% of the coding time is spent building the features in your app, and it's not on any type of like infrastructure stuff. So it's really effective for just like small teams. So if you're Anvil.works is the,
I always get it wrong.
Yeah. And it's really effective in just like if you have an idea, you can build it and launch it entirely by yourself. So that's what kind of drew me to it. And also, I mean, the best developer tool is the one that and just by now it's, I've, hammered out probably thousands of hours on Anvil, between the Maximus stuff, just any project I build, truly anything, even when I'm just like, I want to answer a question, I want to like look up some data from something, I'll like just do it all through Anvil just because it's so easy. It's kind of like a Python sandbox for me. But then also like at my at the startup that I had helped build, the entire platform was built on Anvil just by myself. And then there's one other guy helping for a while, but, and that's supported by now, like hundreds of thousands of customers, tens of millions of dollars of business going through it. Major, Fortune 500 companies like teams at those companies using that to like, the company still operates. I'm not with them anymore. The company still operates on the Anvil app that I built them. And it was so simple that they didn't need like an ongoing engineering team to operate it. It's like their, operations people can operate the app. And so for, and that's a startup. And so for I think it's really effective for that type of setting where it's not like a big, you don't have like, kind of like larger, like corporate engineering teams that are like more expensive. Like when it's just like a small number of people, it really works out, but like the trade-off with that is that, a lot of people do know Python, so you're halfway there, but then like the Anvil knowledge is also like, that's kind of another piece to it. And so it's different than like, it's not like Django. It's not like Flask or any of these other frameworks that Python web developers already know. So like the people, it's like, it's already kind of a smaller community. Some developers hate Anvil because it's like, they have the mentality of like, oh, I can build this all myself in a weekend. Like I'm not going to use that tool. Like Anvil got poo-pooed on in Hacker News when it got launched.
Really?
But also so did Bitcoin. So did, I think HEX was, like all the great things. Dropbox, there's like a famous message, Dropbox launched that they like resurfaced when it went public. And some guy was like, oh, you could simply just like, and he rattled off all kinds of techno bullshit.
I will say, to be fair, to this day, I'm like, why do people use Dropbox? To this day, but they're very successful companies. So there must be a huge enterprise use case, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so a lot of developers, they kind of poo-poo on Anvil because it does everything for you. And like, and then, there's always trade-offs, any type of tool that you select. And like, but just like because of how much it allows me to build with very limited like risk, it's like such a no-brainer for what I build with, and what the types of things that I build. For certain use cases, maybe you need to have higher performance for certain things, or specific types of integrations, but just the flexibility and the ease of use of being able to truly build anything. Like I really feel like I can build anything on Earth with Anvil.
Well, that and ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, I mean, like that. That's how I interact with the OpenAI ChatGPT APIs, just on an Anvil app that I built, where I just like, it's kind of like they have that playground, but you have all the use limits and stuff, and so like I like for this year for Christmas, I made Christmas cards, and I built an Anvil app to generate images and like funny jokes for the Christmas card using ChatGPT and Anvil. And so it's just like little like things like that, just like little tools you want to make for yourself. It's just super useful.
Well, so for people who know, maybe they know Python, they've learned, they started out with HTML, JavaScript. Maybe they know Python, maybe they know like a couple languages, but they're thinking, okay, how do I guess the question is, what is the 1, 2, 3 in order to actually build these web apps to the stuff you did with Maximus, and outside of the actual Solidity code and contract, but like, how do you, what is the easiest way to get started into building, just dApps or building just things that talk to the blockchain to provide services?
Yeah. So I guess those are kind of two separate. So like for if you just want to be able to like read information from the HEX smart contract and display it on a website, for instance, then the tools, I think what you highlighted in there, where you need to, use a service for connecting to the blockchain. You can either be your MetaMask just on your browser, or it can be like Infura or another provider. So you need the connection to the blockchain. And then whatever tool you use to call the functions, there's one called Ethers.js. There's Web3.py. Alchemy has an API. There's any number of these, tools, and then you just follow the instructions on there where you paste in your connection. It's called the URL, the RPC URL that it gives you. It's like you just paste it in there, and then you use it to call the functions using those tools. So you just find your API tool. So, Ethers.js or, Web3.py. So like, for instance, on the Maximus apps, Ethers.js, all I do is I just copy I go to the Ethers.js website and I copy the installation script, and all it is just like 3 lines of HTML that point to it. And then I paste that into something in Anvil. It's called native libraries. So if like you need to import a JavaScript library to use in an Anvil app, you just type in the HTML that imports the library in that native libraries section. And so then all you do is you just call those functions. You can either call them directly in JavaScript, or Anvil actually has this really good, it's almost like a Python to JavaScript translator, where you call the JavaScript functions in Python. So, it's actually really intuitive. If you know both JavaScript and Python, it's awesome. It's a really awesome experience where you can call JavaScript functions, and the interface you call them through, it's just in Python. So that's how I connect to it, to the Ethers library. And then from there, it's like, you just have to look at the documentation for what functions you call to, get a contract, read values from the contract, read events from the contract, or write to the contract and then prompt the MetaMask thing for a signature. So all that is done through the Ethers.js library. And so that's like, it's actually really simple. And Anvil definitely makes it really easy to do, because you can just, plug in Ethers.js right into your Anvil app, and then you're connected to the blockchain. So it's pretty awesome. And then so that's for like building like the front ends, and for like the actual like writing and deploying of a smart contract is kind of entirely different. But
Hexberry, I want to build a front end for dApps. Yeah, is that so? I guess maybe you can talk about that too. Like, how can Hexberry get started doing that?
Yeah, so So definitely just get like I use Anvil, and so just sign up for an Anvil account and just kind of learn the basics of that, and then once you kind of get just like the hang of using Anvil, let me know, and then I could send a link with it, like an example of, and RHMax. I think I might have sent it to you actually. That one that I think it was the MetaMask.
Yeah. That's the coolest thing about Anvil too, is you can like when you sent it to me, I was like, it took me a second to wrap my head around what is going on. Oh, you can copy a project and all the code goes there, and then Anvil makes it so easy to just get started, or just have them in different tabs so you can use it as reference. So yeah, you can just copy example code and share it with people very easily.
Yeah. So that one I sent you, that MetaMask app. I have that's like my baseline app, and then any new app that I build, I just import that as a dependency, as if you import any, because from your code's perspective, 100% of everything you write in Anvil, it's just a normal Python directory. It's just a normal set of Python files. And so everything is just already just connected. And so I have that, some of those starter apps like that MetaMask one. And so I just import, where it's just from MetaMask, import MetaMask, that's how I import my MetaMask module. And then, so I don't have to redo all that stuff every time. I just, with one line of code, import that. And now that app can enable a MetaMask integration. So if you want to build front ends for dApps, just first, you kind of need to know how to just build front ends, and Anvil just makes it really easy to build front ends. But then the connection to the to the blockchain, you use tools like that, so once you get there, I could kind of, help you with that next step if you really wanted to.
Yeah, Debcatcher, you've been super invaluable for just I think Sloth also reached out to you. Gift might have as well, just to get an idea of how to get started. I think that's the hardest thing. Even though I come from somewhat a traditional dev background, it's Anvil is just such a new paradigm. But once you start using it, you're like, wow, this does everything I need, for the most part. And that's why you've used it so much. And so it's everything in Maximus ecosystem, all the staking port, everything is built from that.
100%. The only thing that's not is the MaximusDAO.com, kind of more marketing site, and Goldkey made that on Webflow. So I think he started with a free template and just modified that design. So that one's not on Anvil, and just because you go with the tools that and Webflow has really good design tools. Because with Anvil, you can implement any design. It's just because you can write the CSS. It has some good CSS templates that you can just use, but then you can just modify the theme.css file, and you can make your Anvil app truly look as good as if you're good at CSS, and you can truly make anything. But Webflow has just really nice design tools. So once Anvil implements design tools like Webflow, that I think is another big step in how, because Anvil always improves. The Anvil that you're seeing right there, this is the third version of Anvil that I've used throughout the time, and it's always getting better. It's every couple weeks a new thing, Anvil releases something, or just suddenly everything will just be working better, or the autocomplete feature just works better, or just new features, so it's always getting better. And so I think at some point that their design tools will be able to compete with Webflow's design tools, and the drag and drop design tools, and I think that'll be a big game changer for Anvil.
Yeah. You guys have any, before we move on to the HEX contract, Fashion Coder Gift, you guys have any questions for DC while we got him on this?
I have a quick question actually about this. I've never heard of Anvil before. Is it web-based, or is it a desktop app?
Web-based.
Okay,
so
cool.
All in the browser, and it's that's my favorite part, because I hate downloading software.
Same.
It's just and then you can do it from any computer, so if you're on the go, if you have like a laptop you travel with and like a, like, cause I have my computer at home and then, laptops on the go. And so I can, from any device, even on your mobile device, you can log like
if you really needed to, you could do it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to type.
Yeah.
But if but yeah,
That's
like
awesome.
We're gonna see you with like a Bluetooth keyboard on your phone, just like, oh, I gotta fix it. There's a bug. I gotta fix it.
It probably could. I think if you had the keyboard connected to the phone, it probably, because it's the on-screen keyboard it's all hard to deal with, and so
yeah.
But an iPad, it literally runs on an iPad, so it's it's very powerful in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing. I believe Fashion Code is going to throw up some hex code. There's some hex code going on.
Yes, let's do it.
I imagine Dipcatcher has looked at that before and may be a little familiar. Maybe could provide some commentary as well once we get into it. You've heard of Hex, right? Hex.
Is that a microphone company?
That's yeah. What else could it be? Is that where you go to get curses online for like, it's like a Fiverr for curses?
Or like a color company?
Yeah. You know what? The first thing that comes to my mind, even to this day, it's so funny. Like hexadecimal, right?
Yes.
Dipcatcher or in Fishing Coder and maybe Gift2. Like every time I think of it, it's just so funny that I'm in technology. This is like something that I've been in forever. And then my favorite project in crypto is called Hex. Like it's just, wow, meant to be.
Yeah, great name.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so we went through and we picked out a couple of things that we thought people would recognize. So right here on line 718 is where our famous 5555 comes from. So this is where it all started, y'all, when it comes to the max stake days. So I just saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. That's like, so many of our things are based off of literally this one line of code and no one even knows it.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know the story of how it arrived at 5555?
No, tell me.
So I think if you click that, like, does it say audit report? Is there a link on the audit report?
Yep.
Oh yeah, so the security audit report. Let's see if that's it. But it was originally going to be like 50 years. It was going to be something like, I think like 10,000, or 12,000 days or something. But the problem that the auditor flagged was that based on the way that it calculates the yield on the stake, that long of a stake could potentially be infeasible to end. Not just infeasible, it's too expensive to end, but actually couldn't fit in a single block, because each calculation that the smart contract does during any transaction, it uses a little bit of gas, and there's a finite amount of gas that can fit on a single block. There's like 30 million units of gas that can fit on a single block. And even based on the increase in the gas cost per particular type of transaction, as it stands now, only just over 2 max length stakes can even fit on that block. And so the end stake, the max stake, was originally going to be like 3 or 4 times longer than it is. But the auditor said, hey, like, you're going to have to shrink this, because those long stakes beyond a certain limit, depending on what the future ETH gas block limit is, they may not be able to fit on a block. And so that's what they, shrunk it there.
Yeah.
So that's how it arrived at 5555. It was originally like 10 something.
Yeah. Okay. So I found it. It's 18,200.
Yeah. 18. Yeah. There you go.
That's a lot.
We would have had people getting 18,200 tattoos.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 5555 is, but yeah, that's how it arrived at that.
Oh my gosh. That is interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that that's why. I should go through and read the audit.
Yeah. It's definitely a good read.
Yeah. I think it also allows for later adopters to actually get some meat off the bone too. Like if you allowed people to stake 20 years, then for 20 years, there's always going to be a staker that has way more meat of the bone or way bigger piece of the pie than you. So I think coming down to the Quattro Cinco really helped out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think so too. But even that is long. Like, it's like,
it is.
I guess now it's 3 years in. That's already a fifth of the way. So I guess that's,
we need the meme of like poking something. It's the HEX stake. Do something. No, It's not supposed to do anything.
I think we'll see a lot of craziness at that midway point when you can redeem and get your principal out. But I guess over that whole year, probably that next year, because like anyone who staked before big payday, if you early end stake at any time, you lose your big payday bonus. And so for stakes ending now, that's like 30 or 40% of the principal. But for stakes ending in every day that goes by, because the longer pays better, that amount that you're giving up for an early end stake at any time grows. And so the long-term stakes, it could be, I forget what I'll have to go and look at those, like a 15-year bigger pays better or big payday payout for 15-year stake from early on. Like that could be a huge amount that, like something like 300 or 400%, I think. And so though, like that's like giving up, a huge amount, and you spent 7 years. So you're basically just getting back your principal as if you didn't stake at all. And who knows how many like bull cycles have happened in that where you're staked and then you ultimately just like take out your principal. Like that could happen. That could have a lot of that could happen at that halfway point, especially if price goes up a lot. It makes that like you're losing a little more tolerable.
The next few years and the next bull run, it'll be interesting to see how many emergency end stakes, and then just so 7.5 years from 2020, from 2027 to 2030, including people making the 15-year stakes in the last couple of years too. It'll be interesting to see the emergency end stakes through the bull market and the people who don't, or just wait until they get the principal back, or want to sacrifice. If HEX goes to $5, and they're like, actually, I don't mind losing some of that. We'll see. But Gift, do you have something you want to say?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, did you find that in the code, like where it's doing the math? I see you get the longer pays better, but the early penalty.
So
it's I think further up. There's a lot of lines. There's like 2,000 lines of code.
Yeah. So a helpful way to look so if you click outline right there.
Oh, perfect.
You see that, and then. So like all that stuff, so like the context, the IERC, the safe math, all that stuff is just like, those are like the external, like kind of boilerplate libraries. Even that ERC20, that's just like the standard ERC20 library. So that one is that globals and utility. That's a HEX contract one.
Gotcha.
So probably a function that would talk about that the penalties would be like some like calc penalty or something.
Calc payout and early penalty, maybe 1724.
We're just gonna scroll.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. So then as you scroll down through there, if you go down to like if served days equals 0.
So that's if you like stake and then before 5 o'clock on the day you stake, you unstake, I think. So it's just like like you can back out of your stake during that day. And then and then the penalty. Well, there's there it shows the late penalty, but yeah, so the penalty function has that part about like the big payday. I think it's on calc. It must be. Let's see penalty. Let's see what the penalty days. So penalty days is the staked days param plus 1/2, and then So that like that's what it uses to on the estimate payout reward day. I think is how it. I don't know. No, we gotta have to dig in a little bit, but yeah, that's the function that does the penalties.
Yeah, and as you keep going down, it keeps filling in more and more of the stuff that like we talk about all the time, or that we've been talking about all the time for like 3 years. And you start to see a lot of that stuff. Like you got split penalty proceeds, right? So split the penalty 50-50 between origin and stake penalty total. So it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm ever saying something that's way off, but the stake penalty total is something that it calculates every day, and whatever pot that fills up in penalty rewards is what distributes to the stakers, right? Because the other half, the other 50%, is the origin address that receives those.
Yeah. So
penalty rewards.
Yeah, it's sent to the origin address in real time, but then it's like accounted for in the like daily payout value, and then that's what your, like when you end your stake loops through every day's value in that daily values list, and it adds up all the, like, you know, the total payout divided by total payout times T-shares times like the payout per T-share value.
Yeah. Also a question, if you keep going, there's also, it plugs into the share rate update. So does that mean that it is prepared to bump the T-share rate if somebody early end stakes, but still it's like a massive yield, like maybe it's like a day one staker that ends like a day before their stake is due, so that there's a scenario where it could ratchet up the T-share rate even in a early end stake?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't looked into the fine detail of that particularly, but I think it checks to see if the payout amount plus your principal divided by the current share rate would get more T-shares than what it started with. And that could happen for, you know, especially later on in a stake that, you know, like, you know, if it's a really big stake and it's like in the last couple days, and, you know, something like that may, or you know, depending, it could be one that straddles the big payday at some point. It would have to be a big stake in general. But because I mean, the main thing that it's like every stake can move up share rate, but like regardless of like all these small stakes that just happen to move it up based on the timing in which they're ended, the longest stake always moves it up to the maximum amount that it would have, and it goes there regardless of what happened before it. And so any stake, like a lot of stakes do move the share rate up, but the like maximum that it's going to move up is you can calculate that by just looking at every stake that starts between day, like say, just, you know, to collect a lot, maybe like day 1 and 30. And then throughout that day, it's like, you know, most of the days are covered. And so it's like, you know, the maximum share rate based on the earnings of each one. You have to estimate the future earnings, which you can't fully do with accuracy, but you can be somewhat accurate in that. And so you know, but those are the ones that really ratchet it up. And and you know, ones that have a penalty could be eligible, you know, for that, especially if they're really big and really old. But also maybe not because of the big payday penalty, because there would have been one like the day before or the day after that, you know, with the, you know, even if it was to end early and you give up your big payday bonus, there may be something, you know, that prevent that from being the case.
Hey Max, jump to 1830 real quick for me, or 1828. There's actually a note in here that is kind of a nuanced note to like the question I was just asking. See right there, that where it's noted out there realistically?
Hey, that's my name. Share rate max.
Share rate max.
How'd you find it? I'm in the code. Richard knows.
It says realistically this can't happen, but there are contrived theoretical scenarios that can lead to extreme values of new share rate. So it's capped to prevent them anyway. I mean, they're just like you think that's Dev Kyle's notes? Like I always kind of wondered like who writes the notes and such in projects where we don't know that there's only one dev involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually know who the guy was that actually wrote this code, because I know Kyle wrote a lot of the modeling stuff. I think from his interview a while back, he said he didn't really write any of the Solidity code, but he had kind of like helped, review and that. And but I do remember on an old stream, I can't fully remember like all the details, but I remember Richard saying that like he'd gone through a handful of people that were like trying to build it, and like the first guy didn't work out, second guy just couldn't get it done, and then finally some new guy came in and just made it happen. So it sounds like there's whoever that guy was, who just made it happen. Like that's who I kind of ascribe everything to, but I don't even know who that is. I think it's out. I think people know his name, but
they probably definitely got a leg up after. I'm sure Richard kept all the code from the previous ones, and the third guy that comes in is like, oh, this is so much easier now that I got all the context and I can just like figure this stuff out.
Yeah, especially if they've tried stuff that they knew wasn't going to work, and so just better like starting like design parameters just from
definitely. That. Well, wish we had more time, but we got to wrap up on this. Any last words, everyone, on the HEX contract, on coding in general? Like what? We'll start with Fashion Coder. What are you looking forward to in 2023 in the coding? Now that you know about Anvil, maybe we'll start doing some stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look that up. One of my resolutions for the year is actually to learn both Solidity and Go. I have no goal to actually make anything, but I want to learn them just so then I can be better for the community, because I'll actually know what's going on within those. Because I can read that code, but there's always nuances within each language of what's actually going on. So I'm excited for that this year, to just dive deeper into that and then go deeper into just the code and all the different projects in our community. So lots to look forward to.
Yeah. Dipcatcher, what are you gonna do? When's the new tickers, man? I need some new tickers. I'm getting bored right now. I need some shiny objects to play with. Okay, what's going on? It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months. It's too long.
Yeah, we're launching the RHMax shitcoin.
Oh god. Hey, great ticker. Ticker Max. Three characters would be perfect, actually.
Oh yeah. You never know.
Maybe one day something a wrapped Max steak.
Yeah, we're actually building a token for dogs. So not like a dog token, but actually a crypto for your dog to use. So
when you park at the dog park, you can just use dog coin, dog park coin for it.
Yeah, and you like mint it by cleaning by picking up your dog poop. You can mint you
got to do it like a geolocation one where you map out all the dog poo geolocated, and then when you pick it up, then you get tokens for it in your wallet.
Exactly. What's going on.
Maximus guys. But I mean, seriously for a minute though, are you? I know you've got a lot of ideas for PulseChain and want to build on it too. Is that kind of what you're? I mean, not that we're all just waiting and having other expectations, but do you think there'll be more stuff coming out around HEX, or do you think you all are focused on supporting some of the PulseChain stuff with the ideals now?
I mean, it's once it's live, that's when everything we've built, it wasn't for PulseChain, and even continuing after, everything that we'll build will deploy on ETH first, probably, and so because it's the whole benefit with PulseChain, it's not really to me about the fees, it's about that cross chain, just the focus on a cross chain market with copies of assets across the two. And so, I view it more kind of like a dual chain thing. And until it's large, it has larger markets than Ethereum, it's you want to build on the ecosystem with the largest markets, and luckily you can port, things there. But I mean, definitely the focus is on the high value stuff. And so that, as it stands, is the stuff on Ethereum. So that's kind of just the main focus. Probably what you'll see out of the stuff that I make is more stuff to support the existing Maximus tokens. So right now I'm finishing up just a really comprehensive dashboard for all the coins that we've launched. And then, we have some other ideas for, other ways to, just introduce new things, that you can use your coins for, your Maximus coins. I'm really looking forward to the lending markets that are supposed to be coming out sometime soon. We'll be able to plug into those. But yeah, I mean, a whole lot of other compelling ideas. But I think probably there's a lot that we can do to kind of enhance the existing like Maximus economy. So
yeah,
that's probably
super exciting, man. Like 2023 with Maximus, Hedron, and all other builders out there, going to be fantastic. GIF, send us off. Are you joining the Maximus team? Like, what's 2023? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to continuing my journey. I hope to be able to build my own front end eventually, and just kind of just take it one class at a time and just see where it leads me. Find out where what I have a knack for, what I don't have a knack for, and just kind of find what I enjoy, right? And to just continue my journey in that respect.
Amazing. Last question before we go. Realistic pulse launch. Did we learn anything from RH last night? I don't think anything has changed on that. Everyone keeps saying 2024, but who knows? Last word, FC. Anything?
Well, so this is what I was tweeting about right before I got on this.
I said FC, not DC. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go
for it.
So, there wasn't much new information. Like the one thing that he kind of cited about where, at least what I got from it was that they're having a hard time accurately testing something that because they had to make a change in like the amount of memory allocated per like slot that they store the supplies in, basically, because with like the 10,000 to 1 PLS to ETH like unit scaling plus other supply scaling that happens from the sacrifice and like the fixer bot thing, and like it sounds like that's just to because there's going to be more units of pulse per ETH. Why not just make it so there's less units of pulse than ETH and fit into existing because like that was the problem, is that they're updating this one memory slot and then the after effects of like some change that like other things that had been tested and verified as capable, that we're relying on that memory slot being what it was, say it's like 64 bytes. What I don't know the specifics, but they have to increase that memory allocation, and then all the ongoing after effects of that. So like I'm like, okay, why not just like not do that 10,000x to 1 thing? Do the opposite. Do like make pulse be really scarce but have huge number. Like what if it was like 100 ETH per 1 pulse, and so scaled down, so that gives you like 100x supply scaling from the sacrifice, because I know there's intention to like slash the value of the ETH. So like why not just, rather than multiplying everything, why not like divide first and then kind of work from there? So
interesting. He likes high numbers, and I don't know. I guess we're all hanging on the edge of our seats, thinking, "Oh, no other big changes, please, no." But so maybe they'll figure it out with those numbers, or maybe they'll divide it. Like you said, that's one way to do it. Interesting. Cool. Great to get the commentary. All right, everyone. Thanks for hopping on, Dipcatcher. Always good to see you, man. I have to get you back on the show, whether you make a new ticker or not. You are always welcome.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll have to do this again.
Fashion Coder, amazing to catch up again since our last stream. GIF, welcome back, sir. Welcome back. And everyone out there, Scivive and 5555.